Hello, welcome to part 2 of my presentation for the 1x144 gold type Sumo Gundam airbrushing with Alclad. In part 1, I completed the chroming stage. In part 2, I will start with the spoon test. The Alclad Pale Gold was what I picked for this Sumo Gundam. It's the ALC 108. Shake the bottle very well. Make sure that there is no paint stuck at the bottom of the bottle. For me, this stage of the project was very problematic because my airbrush started to act up. Before I added the gold, I actually cleaned the airbrush by using Mr. Color Thinner. But you can see that lesser and lesser gold came out, and the gold is also uneven. There came a point when no paint came out of the airbrush, so I took the airbrush apart and I cleaned it. I fixed the problem, but it happened again and again, and then the airbrush started to splatter. You know, the paint came out in big droplets. So I tried to fix the problem, but I decided that perhaps it is time to get a new brush. As you can see, Alclad is actually a very beautiful paint. The pale gold is very, very beautiful, very subtle and very gentle. It is a very beautiful gold. I tried the red hot metal, the ALC 411, on non-shiny chrome. What happened was the red hot metal also became non-shiny. This is all right for me for this particular project. I think it is very good to note. Now these are the pieces I managed to complete before my airbrush completely broke down. These are the pieces that did not make it. Now the 5 pieces of plastic in black was previously gold coated, but it was damaged by the airbrush because of the splatter. It was very bad, and then I had to sand off the gold. I sanded off the chrome. I sanded off everything, the black and the primer, and then I reprimed and I applied a new layer of black. So those 5 pieces of plastic basically took up all my paint. I ran out of black and I ran out of primer. If something goes wrong at this stage, I will not be able to redo again because I don't have supplies anymore. That chrome piece that you see is the only piece that wasn't done when the airbrush completely broke down. So actually it wasn't involved at all. It was just not done. Now I had problems stripping off the paint out of those 5 pieces. I did not know about purple power or any other methods to strip paint off the plastic. I actually used sandpaper, and that made it actually worse. The surface became rough, and at this point I can tell you that I was quite frustrated. So the 5 pieces of black was not smooth. I try actually to smooth it as much as possible by spraying it with the black, because the black paint was actually very it's a very powerful black enamel gloss black paint that can actually act like a primer. So I try very hard at this stage, and I hope for the best. Now here, this airbrush was what happened. It served me for about 10 sessions, and I think given its price, it did a fairly good job. I was very happy with the airbrush until up to this point. I think it's about time I get a better airbrush. I was not able to put back this airbrush because one of the parts that fell off, I did not know how to reinsert that particular part. So I did not fix it. I fixed it many times when it started acting up, But at this point, I just couldn't fix it anymore. I bought a new Pache airbrush, however this would not fit into the TC80 air compressor. An engineer friend suggested that I use the 1/8 inch female BSP to 1/4 inch male NPT adapter. He says that this connector is difficult to find because he thinks that there is some difference in standards between British and American. So he suggested that I buy this connector from either Amazon Canada or Amazon USA. However, I did not buy this connector. I bought another connector from Amazon US, Amazon.com, and these actually did not work. And I got frustrated. So I bought a new airbrush, another airbrush that is the same as the old one, so that the project can continue as before. Then I decided not to strip the parts of the paint because by now I'm very tired. I feel that I have reached a maximum in terms of time and resources for this project. The worst part here is shown. This is the most imperfect part, very rough, but I decided to go ahead with it. Now this is the gold. And then here is the test of Alclad as a paint. The Tamiya masking tape was applied on the pale gold without top coat. And it turned out very good for me. You can see that there is not much difference. You cannot really tell that a little bit of gold has peeled off. And this is really a very, very good paint. I can see now why the ALC 411 is so popular with people who are working on the Sinanju. It's a beautiful red. Now this is the front and the back view. I had problems assembling the Sumo because the plastic became very brittle and a lot of pegs or connectors broke and I had to cut them off. I was still able to put together the Sumo without those pegs. Now this top view is the actual boo-boo. I was not able to put together the shoulders. It wouldn't snap right in, and then the plastic started making cracking sounds when I pressed too hard, so I stopped forcing the plastic to go in together. This is because I think there's too much paint and too much airbrushing. Now the way to correct this actually is to take the parts apart, take it apart, and then cut off the connectors, because it is those connectors that are creating these big gaps. But for this project, it is my first Alclad airbrush project and the first time I'm using an airbrush. So I have decided that I think I should leave it this way. When I photograph the figure, I would make sure that I avoid the top view. But if you look at the tutorials from people who have been using Alclad for many years, the very experienced users, they always assemble the parts and then they sand off the seam lines and fill up the seams. They really work on the preparation. It's very important to do that actually. Now I understand why they did it, and next time if I were to do this again, I will definitely do like what they did. I will work on the preparation, the sanding and the sanding of seam lines and the filling up of holes. There are small holes. So here is a size comparison for the Sumo and the Zaku. The Sumo is bigger. Here is the Sumo in sunlight without clear coat. I finally decide to add the clear coat. This is just a gloss coat over the gold. So this is the Sumo in the sunlight with the clear coat. Here it is on my shelf with clear coat. Now, thank you for watching, and I would like to thank all those people who so generously shared their expertise, experiences, and knowledge on airbrushing with Alclad online and also on their websites. I learned everything from them, and without those guys, this would not have been possible. And I would like to thank all of them for that.